It's a syndicate at night, blasting playpen in the daytime. Goosebumps rise at 9 and settle back down at sunrise. Cut the cord at noon and say you'll be back soon. Tut tut, no worries, please get back early. Head out with champagne and dresses and let's get girly. Tut tut, no worries, please get back early. Head out with champagne and dresses and let's get girly. It's some booze fueled teenage ground. Running from pub to club.
Beer is globally the third most popular drink in the world after water and tea, and the most widely consumed alcoholic beverage. India is among the top 5 beer markets in the Asia Pacific region in terms of volume, with the Indian beer industry expected to grow annually by 7.7% until 2023. The beer industry is in the midst of a change in India, and a trend is particularly visible in the metros. You might have heard of it casually or in the passing, and you will hear about it more often in the future. Craft beer. It is the next big thing. With increasing disposable incomes and exposures to newer ideas, people are beginning to prefer fresh, high quality, and handcrafted beers over bigger brands. So, what exactly is craft beer? Beer is made from 4 basic ingredients: grains, water, hops, and yeast. But craft beer is the result of the creativity and instinct of a master brewer who experiments with new and unexpected ingredients. And that can only happen in a microbrewery, also called a craft brewery.
A craft brewery should be able to tingle all 5 senses. From a visual perspective, the ambience of the brewery should bring in those elements where I feel at home. Obviously, beers have to come first and they need to be of high quality, and there also should be a choice. In addition to the regular beers on tap, there should be seasonal beers. All of these beers should be paired with some great food, and that food menu should be hence designed around the beers. On top of that, to complement all of this, the most important piece is the staff. Collectively, if you add all the elements together, staff that's well trained, knowledgeable to guide you through the beers and food pairings, wonderful service on top of it, what you get is a complete craft beer experience.
Great beer needs talented master brewers. Having a master brewer is like having a Michelin star chef. Torrent, Bangalore's leading brew pub now for a decade, undoubtedly has one in Matthew Callahan.
Cheers, Sancho.
The Irishman here explains how there has been a gradual shift in the Indian palate when it comes to beers.
Indian palate's changed over the years I've been here. We started more on the sweet side. It seemed the locals enjoyed more sweeter beer on it, but now over the years they're getting more brave and experimenting, especially with the IPAs and stuff like that. It's very encouraging to see that though. They're expanding their palates and everything else, especially for what we had in India before craft brewers. The brewing culture in Bangalore is changed over the years. Again, it's a new experience compared to what we had before. We had basically one type of beer, but now we've come out with the craft brewers. We're experimenting with different flavors, different ingredients and everything else. But especially in Bangalore, I think they're braver than other parts of India. They're more experimental. So the new beers we come out, pretty much they're very well accepted. And if they're not, our customers let us know. So sometimes we do a beer once and that's it. But we have beers now, if we don't do them on a regular basis, the customer comes in and actually asks for those beers again. So those are the ones we do on a regular basis, or at least if they're seasonal beers, we got to make sure we have them.
Bangalore has always been renowned for its pub culture, and it is currently the center stage of a bubbling craft beer industry. There are at least 60 brew pubs at the time of counting, from the biggest in Asia to the trendiest. to the spiffiest. We asked Matthew about his finest creations at Lloyd from the stunningly creative range that he has brewed.
Oh, can be a difficult one. I'm more of a traditionalist, malt, hops, yeast, and water, but I keep getting pushed to try something different. And even at my age, it gets exciting sometimes. But still, I'll go back to hops, yeast, and water. There's a lot of great beers we have here, but probably my best creation, I think, is the Dark Knight. It's a dry stout. I think we're one of the few in India that does a dry stout the way we do it, and I think it's very, very, very popular. It's moving up in our list as far as one of our best sellers, especially in other states. But the biggest thing I think I like about our Dark Knight is I see women drinking this more than I do men sometimes. And it's just nice to see and sit down, a lady drinking Dark Knight, and maybe one or two guys drinking Tintin or Vice or something like that.
Bangalore is also home to the Beer Club, South India's first microbrewery set up in 2010, teeming with activity on the Vittal Malya Road with its happy hour deals, industry hour deals, and its tasty meals. Having studied brewing and distilling at the prestigious Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, Scotland, Rohit knows his hops and grains and never shies away from bold innovations.
For us, in the last 8 years, we would have made about 160, 170 different types of fruit beers. Just honey basil, honey rosemary. We made a beer with Earl Grey and lemongrass. I mean, a tea and lemongrass in a beer, which you wouldn't expect to be made, but when you taste it, it just bursts with flavors. Similarly, with the Christmas ales, we have made tons of Christmas ale with plums, raisins. Every year is a different kind of Christmas ale. We make a Belgian style Christmas ale, a German style Christmas ale, an English style Christmas ale. So what I'm trying to say is, we are in a very unique position to be able to experiment, to be able to give the customers any different fruit. We've done trial with passion fruit, strawberries, blackberries. We've done trials with basil, rosemary, thyme, orange. Anything you mention and we would have made the beer with that particular fruit. In fact, I dare say we have done trials with carrots and curry leaves as well, but obviously that beer didn't turn out well, so we couldn't scale it up to 1,000 liters. But that said, it's easy for craft brewing to do all this. People will not ask for new kinds of bottled beers because even they are aware that at such a large scale you cannot innovate as we do with smaller scale. For instance, you have in front of me the strawberry vanilla beer. We use fresh strawberry pulp for this, for 1,000 liters. You can't expect a brewery which is making 20,000 liter batches to use 10,000 kgs of pulp. We end up using 100 kg, 120 kg of pulp, which we manually pulp it and then put it in the fermenter. So it's a tedious process, but then the rewards are that you get fresh fruit aromas rather than strawberry essence, which you cannot emulate with large scale industries. So it's a very kind of exciting, unique field to be in, but specifically for craft breweries, not for commercial breweries. As a craft brewery, you have carte blanche to experiment whatever you want with, right? When you do something like that, the customers are attracted to all the innovation that comes with it, right? And in addition to that, what you've seen in India is the pub brewery culture, where people come not just for the beer, but for the environment as well, for the pub, the ambience and all of that. So keeping all those things in mind, you'll find that craft beer offers a lot more enjoyment over any bottled beer that you can find.
The Indian market has traditionally been dominated by strong beers. India is also a largely spirits-led market, but the craft beer trend is certainly gaining momentum. And like all good products, craft beer is creating a differential clientele, a separate subset of patrons. This is of course a consequence of the desire to have a sophisticated experience and the willingness to pay a few more bucks for a niche product.
The craft beer industry is about a decade old in this country. When we started out, there were only a handful of cities that had a few brew pubs across the country. So people really had to travel and seek them out. What happened was people got really excited. They loved what they were seeing, being able to have fresh craft beer served on premise, on tap. And so people, either went back to their cities and spoke about it, spoke to their friends, spoke to their colleagues. And a slow revolution almost started in the country where people were starting to ask for craft beer. And this inspired a lot of people. People chose brewing as a profession. A lot of Indian brewers have gone abroad, worked at world-class institutes, have come back over the last few years as trained brewers. And so what we've seen today, there are hundreds of brew pubs that have sprung up across the country, and craft beer has really become a force to reckon with. Where we are right now is that there's a lot of conversations happening about craft beer. People are excited, people are extremely curious, right? So I think what's really been fueling this is a growing beer culture that's happening across the country, and the coming together of people, like-minded individuals who are starting conversations about beer, both online and offline. For example, if you go to a pub and you have 8-10 beers on tap, that's immediately a conversation starter. Imagine having 8 different beers on a table and everyone immediately is talking about it.
While Bangalore is undoubtedly the leading city for craft beer in India, there is another place that is not far behind where the craft breweries are foraying into for bottling their craft beer. In North Goa, amidst the plethora of budget hotels, casinos, clubs, and eateries, you would also find a wide range of bottled craft beers because, unlike Karnataka, Goa has a kegging policy in place. This means that you don't have to go to a brew pub to enjoy pints of craft beer. You are more than likely to find them at some popular bar, shacks, restaurants, and supermarkets with ease. And so now, Goa is no longer about the Kingfisher and Goa King beers. It is also the foreign tourists who have forced this frothy change with their willingness to experiment and go for the new and bold offerings. Goa, being a tourist state, has always been a bit different, and it is no different when it comes to locally brewed craft beer brands like Susegado. By naming themselves Susegado, the brand already answers one of the most important questions that people ask the first time they hear of a new beer. Where is it brewed? Aditya Challa is a unique person in the industry who has the experience of brewing home and abroad, having brewed an award-winning craft beer in Singapore and then in Bangalore. He now owns and brews the craft beer Susegado, the Goan word that means a relaxed attitude and enjoyment of life to the fullest. The unhurried pursuit of happiness, which incidentally is Susegado's tagline. By naming a Goan beer Susegado, they are winning the perception battle right there by capturing that intangible aura of Goa. Sun, sand, sea, and Susegado. As it is said, the closer you are to the environment, the better the beer is.
This first beer is our English Pale Ale. It's a very traditional British style. The only difference is that we add a bit of American hops to give it a slightly more piney and citrus aroma note. But other than that, it's a very, very traditional English style Pale Ale. This one's a Dortmund style lager. It started off as a seasonal, but people really liked it, so it's now become semi-permanent and has joined a permanent lineup now. It's a style of lager from northwestern Germany, the city of Dortmund. It's a little maltier and a little heavier body than a standard Pilsner. Wheat beer is the most popular style in India. Ours is a Hefeweizen, which is a German style wheat, but with a tropical twist in the form of Alfonso mangoes from Ratnagiri. And so that gives it a slightly fruity mellow note to complement the sharp notes of a typical wheat beer.
I like craft beer because I don't drink to get lost. I enjoy it with everything.
Here's to Arbor Brewing Company, 25 years of magic, and now we're here in Goa. It's a beautiful thing. Cheers!
Currently, Arbor is one of the leading brew pubs that has ventured into bottling. They are as good at brewing as they are skillful at delicious finger foods and juicy steaks.
Another evident trend in the industry has been the move from brew pubs to packaging. And brew pubs were what really fueled and set the course for craft beer in the country. They were the first to get legalized. Brew pubs essentially being where you can have a brewery on premise inside a restaurant and a pub. You brew on site, serve your beer on premise, but the restrictions that limit a brew pub are that you can't send your product out. And over the years, as it got popularized, people started asking for craft beer at home, for their parties, to relax with their friends, have a beer and spend the night in, without having to actually come to a brew pub. So I think that's fairly evident now that we have a growing base of craft beer drinkers, that we need to get the product out into the market, into the retail market, into third-party craft, into bars and restaurants who are, partner outlets. So we're seeing a big trend where established brew pubs are looking to scale up the operations, looking to set up larger production breweries. You're also looking at people who don't want to necessarily maybe run a restaurant, because a brew pub essentially means that it's not only beer that you're manufacturing, but you also have to run a fairly large food business. So there are brewers who, for instance, are very highly skilled brewers and don't want to get into the hassles of restaurant operations per se. And they're preferring to just set up production breweries where they can package either in keg or bottle or can and push that out in the market. So I think there are various formats out there right now, and it's a very exciting time to be looking at the craft beer market, whether you're an established brand or someone new who's looking to come in. There are various segments that you can slot yourself into, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to be only manufacturing. It could be retail, it could be marketing, it could be distribution. There are a lot of exciting things happening.
Bottling involves a sharpened focus on naming the brew, its packaging, and marketing. There is an encouraging trend of non-conformist, modern beers from young entrepreneurs in India who will go to great lengths to break the traditional brewing rules and come up with the innovation, touting world-class craft beers. Like the Goa Brewing Company, nestled right here in a vintage Goan bungalow in Saligaon, North Goa. Each of Goa Brewing Company's beers start out as a thought and thus end up with a distinct personality. For example, the Pineapple Saison is meant to be the perfect beer to have on a hot afternoon after a lap in the pool or a swim in the Arabian Sea. And with 8-Finger Eddie.
They call me 8-Finger Eddie because I do have 8 fingers. I was born with this hand. It's no accident.
Eponymously named after Goa's famous hippie, the thought was, what would you love to drink while binging on your Netflix show? As we say in the parlance of our times, chilling. Craft beers cater to the increasing tribe of the young, confident, individualistic Indians. The National Capital Region and Pune are other big centers where the craft beer industry is making its presence felt. NCR, in fact, has a whole cluster of microbreweries in what can only be termed as a sprawling beer village in Sector 29 of Gurgaon. They operate cheek by jowl in close proximity of each other. With the Master Plan of Delhi 2021 being modified to accommodate microbreweries in restaurants, hotels, and clubs, Delhi will see a lot of brew pubs opening. While some brands begin operations in traditional centers like Bangalore, Goa, the NCR, Pune, and Mumbai, Simba Craft Beer has simultaneously focused on both the smaller markets as well as the bigger cities. Simba currently has considerable presence in Assam, Chhattisgarh, and Jharkhand, apart from Bangalore, the NCR, Mumbai, and Kolkata in just the third year of operations. Simba is one of the very few brands which makes all of its beer in its self-owned brewery and is the first craft beer brand in India to have launched a bottled stout. Importantly, they also house an experimental microbrewery within their larger setup. Craft beer is not meant to get blackout drunk. Rather, it is for enjoying the taste, flavors, and the high of a brew in a relaxed manner.
So earlier you get only a couple of varieties like lagers or pilsners, but the scene in Bangalore has changed so much over the years, and that's actually a welcome change. Crafts are not meant to get you high, but rather to enjoy the experience. The problem nowadays is people just focus on getting wasted.
Stanley is right. Too many Indians just focus on inebriation and not the experience. There is a difference in being drunk and buzzing on a happy high. It is here that educating people about beers helps. Geist in Bangalore does it really well with its informative guided tours and beer launches. Geist is one of the first craft breweries of Bangalore and continues to supply its range to a lot of pubs and clubs. It is another hip brand from down south and goes about their brewing in an eco-friendly manner while coming up with incredible variations like Ronchefella, a smoked wheat beer. All these brands are nudging the beer drinkers one at a time towards craft. What you drink tells something about who you are. Are you young or adventurous? Are you environmentally conscious and experimental? In a society of ultra-conscious consumers, the successful brands will be those that make consumers feel the way they want to feel about themselves. However, none of the craft beer brands has got into advertising themselves in a big way yet. A brand that is going to be more visible than ever before is Bira 91. In a short span of 3 years, Bira 91 craft beer has become the country's leading beer brand. They are taking attention-grabbing steps in an industry which is bubbling with excitement and investor money. Bira has signed a 5-year global partnership with the International Cricket Council, more commonly known as the ICC. This makes it the first Indian beverage brand to strike a global sponsorship deal with cricket's governing body. As an official partner, Bira will have a comprehensive presence through their range of products across broadcast, digital, and on-ground activations in every global ICC tournament, starting with the 2019 Cricket World Cup in England and Wales. The move is helping Bira enter the lucrative UK market, with India hosting the T20 World Cup in 2021 and the Cricket World Cup in 2023. Bira is brilliantly placed as a brand. It aspires of becoming a global brand with a strategic goal of filing an IPO by 2023. Besides India, it has expanded internationally to the US, Singapore, Hong Kong, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. The company expects to expand its production footprint fivefold from 350,000 barrels now to 2 million barrels by summer of 2019. Bira stock is on the rise, with American venture capital firm Sequoia Capital as its largest single investor. Among other investors are film director siblings Farhan and Zoya Akhtar, with their excellent entertainment producer Ritesh Sidhwani. It commands a pop cultural appeal. Initially brewed and imported from Belgium, Bira today has 4 production breweries in India and is the brand most likely to succeed internationally, with presence in 9 counties at last count. The trend of craft beer making moves has been noticed by the industry biggies. Booze behemoth Kingfisher is also planning to get into the craft business, as United Breweries Limited announced earlier this year. There will be more frontiers that the craft beer industry crosses, but it is important to see where it began for the first time. The distinction of the first microbrewery license in India goes to Dulali Brewing Company, which opened in November 2008 in Pune.
To put it in one line, a Dulali pint is like an epiphany in a glass. Over here we feel that beer is a democratic beverage and you don't need to deck up to drink it. Our tap rooms are kind of like the third place away from home, because in Bombay, you work, your first home is your office, the home is the place that you sleep at. And if you live in Bombay, your house is really small and you probably live with like roommates and flatmates and family, and you need a third place. You need a place to kind of just hang out with your pet, play a game, maybe eat something. So we basically want people to spend time with us, and people have very little spare time, and what they do in that spare time is really important to them, and we understand that. So that's what Dulali is actually all about. So the Bandra tap room actually opened thanks to the Pune brewery, and then the Bandra tap room revenue helped fund the Andheri tap room, and then Kemp's, and then Khar, and now in Palm Beach Road in Navi Mumbai. So we want to be in every neighborhood in India in the next 10 years. You can say we want to be the Starbucks of craft beer in India.
The time is surely around the corner when Indians will expect more out of the beer they drink. When that happens, craft beers will be waiting in the wings to claim their place aside industry giants. However, it is not all honey and peaches for the craft beer industry. Registration, permits, licensing formalities, municipal permissions, bylaws, the tax and excise structures pose as significant roadblocks. Matthew, in his 10 years, has seen enough of these challenges.
The next challenge that we have to address is regulations as they stand now, but the new regulations that are coming up almost on a weekly, if not daily basis. They get very frustrating sometimes, but it's something that craft brewers as a group has to address very soon and as a group with one voice to overcome it. We have to, besides educating our drinkers, we have to educate the government on what we're trying to do and how we can make this work for everyone.
Gaurav Sikka, however, is confident of the craft beer industry and talks of the second wave of evolution.
Brewers across the country are looking at what this next wave is going to be, and I think we ought to give people the choice that they deserve, right? And so I think the goal for us, really the mission for us as brewers, is to make craft beer available across the country so that whenever anyone is ordering a beer, whether in a supermarket, a bar or a restaurant, there are viable craft beer options, whether on draft, bottle or can. I think the future is very exciting and it's certainly going to be a very hoppy one. I'm looking forward to it.
So craft beer in this country is in an upward trajectory. And there's two reasons for that. One is the quality of the beer, and two, the quality of the entrepreneurs that bring us this beer. And you'll be surprised to know that this segment called craft beer only occupies 2% of the overall beer market in the country. What does that mean? We have so much room to grow and so many more people can jump into the sector, and that's what we're seeing. We have so many new brands coming into the country, and each one of these brands is looking to capture different parts or segments of the craft beer audience through different means, and some of those means include different types of packaging. There are folks looking at growlers, they're looking at kegs, looking at bottles, and even cans. And some of these brands that have already entered the market that you may be familiar with are Simba, White Owl, White Rhino, Hopper from Belgium, which is actually Indian, and we even have a beer from Bhutan called Kati Patang.
There are more craft beers coming. The established as well as new brands are trying to find more ways to reach the tipplers. Pint, cans, growlers, brew pubs. Earlier, if you wanted to crack a cold one at home, you were limited to Budweisers, Heinekens, Fosters, Kingfishers and Tuborgs of the world. Not now, not anymore. There is going to be more variety than ever before, and the established brands are going to be seriously challenged by the upstart craft beer brands in clubs, pubs, all the cool hubs. The rise of craft beer in India is here to stay and keep fizzing.
Just wanna be lazy with my girls. It's been a day, we gonna get wavy.
Did you put the production company logo?
I forgot. I'll do it right away. Beers are on them now.
Get our nails done, get our hair done, we fly. Maybe we can holler at the boys, looking so good, whistle when they walk by. Cause we know what they want, but we just laugh. Yeah, we won't let them get away with that. It's been a day, stressing out like crazy. Just wanna be lazy with my girls. It's been a day, we gonna get wavy. Layer on some diamonds and some pearls. Maybe we could go to the mall, get our nails done, get our hair done, we fly. Maybe we can holler at the boys, looking so good, whistle when they walk by. Cause we know what they want, but we just laugh. Yeah, we won't let them get away with that. It's been a day, stressing out like crazy. Just wanna be lazy with my girls. It's been a day, we gonna get wavy. Layer on some diamonds and some pearls.